So like I said in other videos, stories are incredibly powerful and myths are incredibly powerful. And stories that are powerful pointers become a type of language. And like I've talked about in the past, how religions are powerful kind of language, which it's incredibly important to understand that they also, with a power of having a language and being able to communicate, it also has pretty severe limitations. But stories that we don't really believe are real and don't have the sort of power and charge behind religions are often sort of laughed off as silly. We don't understand really how profoundly they affected us. So one of the ways that this happens is it sort of reframes the way that we think of ourselves as we can commiserate with a character. So the beginning of Harry Potter is really important because it's basically the ugly duckling kind of story where he does not fit in whatsoever. So of course he's the nephew of the Dursleys and he is growing up where he's not understood, and he has these events where the glass just disappears and he lets the snake out and he can speak to snakes, and these sort of things that just seem like horrible luck to him. And he completely misunderstands them. He knows he's different, but he has no guidance whatsoever of what's happening with him. And so we all feel like that at the start of our lives, especially if you have this sort of calling to go deeper. We all feel that way. We feel like the community around us and the people around us and the society around us was modeled for someone who is not us. And so, like when the ugly duckling realizes that he's actually a swan, Harry Potter gets his letter to Hogwarts and everything just suddenly changes. And it's this complete new, like, open discovery, and we're taken on this adventure. And so he lives in complete poverty with the Dursleys, but really he has this vault of gold. And that metaphor is used in Enlightenment. He's actually famous. And so he has this opening, all these people who want to teach him to use his talents, and he knows nothing whatsoever about it. So at the same time, he is loved and highly regarded, and yet nobody has really cared about him to this point. So he has to kind of figure those things out. So the desires that a book makes arise in you are more profound than we understand. So there's a time in my life and sometimes currently where, like, really good movies, I do not like to sit down and watch really good movies because the way they make me feel is there's almost like so much desire or so much of a power there, or this like discomfort that arises, that I would rather just not watch the movie. And so like some of our avoidance of like saying that entertainment is a waste of time can be this, because a really, really good movie or really good stories make us feel and make us desire certain things. And so it's helpful to understand what exactly that desire is, because a lot of that discomfort is when you watch something really inspiring. This could be a song or anything really. Um, and you have this sort of desire, this sort of like discomfort arise in you. What is it you desire? And you don't know what it is. And so spirituality like helps us to understand and learn what it really is. And so Harry goes to this school where he has all these sort of teachers who teach him about like different aspects of how to understand this power and how to use this power and how to not have things go awry, to stay safe with it. And the friends in Harry Potter are a huge thing. So we don't just learn from teachers, we learn from peers. And we like to think of like the monk who meditates in a cave alone, and we like to think of loneliness and isolation as this incredible spiritual thing. But when it comes to avoiding and shunning these sort of friendships and peer relationships, this can actually be a pitfall, because we need, just as a theme in Harry Potter, we need those friends. And even when they're lacking in certain ways that we regard most highly, they have talents that we didn't see, we didn't understand, that we need. This whole entire thing is unfolding, is the co-creation. And so I feel like often these kind of like, you realize you're a swan, so you go to the school with other swans, and those are the friendships that end up being the most rewarding and also the most difficult to have, because we have this sort of like competition, we have these desires arise with each other, and so nobody has figured this out. We've had like communes completely come apart, and it's this incredible thing where these relationships with people who are like-minded and like us are so fulfilling, and yet the other side of it so difficult sometimes. But like, friendship and love is a huge theme in Harry Potter, and as much as we like isolation and being by yourself is huge. It's a huge part of spirituality, but don't completely disregard the other side too. So then, of course, there's this beautiful overarching understanding of the books where Harry is Voldemort, and this is all happening. It's all this resonance and love of the author writing it for us. And this is the love itself, and this is the love of creation. So we often like to think of love as in relationship with two people, but love, of course, is our creations and them being shared and them having a resonance with each other, because we aren't actually humans. And so when we lose ourselves in the sort of love and resonance with a story, or in having a certain desire and it not being something that we hold apart from ourselves, it's this amazing magical thing. So one of the things that really struck me when I read Harry Potter is how brilliantly and like quick-paced structured the books are, and how Harry overlooks so many things. He disregards certain teachers. He thinks some teachers are evil. He has like this complete egoic relationship with Snape that is incredibly interesting, and realizes that, like, is he good? Is he bad? Which side is he really on? There's people he trusts who later turn out to be imposters. And there's these brilliant sort of keys throughout the book where he's not really looking, he's not really seeing things, and yet there's a revelation where that all kind of unfolds. And if you've had an awakening experience, or these kind of experiences where insights like hit you and it seems exactly like that, like these things that you wondered about, that you just sort of like noted in your awareness in the past but didn't understand, all of a sudden, like as if there's no time, or time collapses on itself, everything is sort of understood. So the other incredible, powerful metaphor in Harry Potter is the Horcruxes. So Voldemort, out of fear of death, splits his soul into these pieces. So he takes these pieces and hides them and thinks that he can protect himself this way. And so this is duality, and this is what we do emotionally, and what we all do. We all have Horcruxes. And so you could say an awakening is finding one of these things, is healing it, is having it kind of come, you've found it, or it's found you, and you see and suddenly have this love and resonance that's beyond you and beyond anything that you can do, or you can physically take steps to heal yourself, and you see this thing. So these are often just plain people we haven't forgiven, situations we haven't understood, things we've judged, things we've hated. Like I said in one of my more recent videos, always having, growing up in a childhood where Marilyn Manson was demonized, and then watching his music and like seeing what that was and having some resonance with it and everything, it felt like that was like a Horcrux. Like that's an example, and there can be some hugely like terrifying, powerful things that happened in your past that can be that. And Harry Potter itself was a Horcrux for me, because when I was a kid, when I read it, I was very, very Christian. And I had a friend, and like, funny enough, the meaning of her name means wisdom guide. And she was my absolute best friend in grade school. And her mother was really liberal and just this amazing person. She had grown up in this like really well off, well educated family, but as in her young 20s, she went to Sierra Leone, in the Peace Corps, and she built schools and everything, and then there was a horrible civil war that like destroyed everything she did. But that experience changed her forever, and she wanted to move somewhere rural and just be a teacher. And so she had an incredible influence on my life, and she helped me. She was my reading teacher and introduced me to Mark Twain and everything at an early age. But anyway, so I forget exactly how old I was, and so my friend, her daughter, had gotten into Harry Potter and just really recommended it to me, to the point where they knew I was gonna have, it would be like this sort of witchcraft Christianity problem come up with it, but she convinced me, and like to try to show her that I was open-minded and stuff, I read the books and I absolutely fell in love with them. And just like all the judgments and stuff that come up before you actually read the book, and then once you read them, that love and resonance completely takes you away. And that's exactly what fear is warning us from, and what we're afraid of, like losing ourselves in these things. And these are our Horcruxes. And so the books themselves, in like the Strange Loop fashion, were an actual Horcrux for me. I am Lord Voldemort. So the themes of love and courage have to be the most powerful thing about the Harry Potter stories. And of course, like all great fairy tales and myths and everything have these, but Harry Potter does it brilliantly. And, you know, Gryffindor, the sign is the lion. I always had this like huge resonance, loved lions as a kid. And the Chronicles of Narnia had a very similar like spiritual effect on me too. And I know like as a young age it happened. It was the same sort of resonance and fire that like studying the Gospels or studying Proverbs is something I read and read again. I was very like deeply Christian, deeply into, like I found something in Christianity that resonated. And the same thing happened with Harry Potter and happened with the Chronicles of Narnia. And these stories and these truths, these things that lead us, they somehow have this magic of guiding us to let go of the self, let go of the survival, and to go on in this adventure that really, like, you know, magic unfolds into the mundane for us. And that's another thing about Harry Potter that I found notable, is that he goes back, I think there might be one he doesn't, I can't remember, but every summer he goes back with the Dursleys. And it's like all of this huge magical stuff just never happened, and he's back to this mundane, ridiculous life where he doesn't fit in. And there are many times on a spiritual path that it feels this way. but the mundane really is magic, and we're really like, we're the ones who have that love and that resonance. And the story that the story is born out of itself.